The delivery notification chimed for the 14th time that day, and Jade Harper wanted to throw her phone into the street. Her fingers were numb despite the worn gloves. The steering wheel of her decade-old Honda felt like ice beneath her grip. December in the city meant brutal winds that cut through her faded jacket like it was made of paper. And tonight, the cold seemed especially determined to seep into her bones. She pulled up to an apartment complex in the South District, grabbed the package from her passenger seat, and jogged to the entrance. Her sneakers had a hole near the left toe. She could feel dampness creeping in with each step. The customer wasn't home, of course. Jade waited in the hallway for 8 minutes, watching the delivery timer tick down on her phone app. Her completion rate was already hovering at 87%. Anything below 85 and she'd lose the weekend bonus. Anything below 80 and they'd deactivate her account entirely. At minute 9, she left the package by the door, snapped a photo, and ran back to her car. The next pickup was 6 blocks away. Then another delivery 4 blocks from that. Then another. The app pinged constantly, each notification a reminder that standing still meant losing money. And losing money meant the stack of bills on her kitchen counter would grow even taller. By the time she finished the 13th delivery, the sun had set completely. The dashboard clock read 6:47 p.m. Her shift had started at 9 a.m. Jade sat in the driver's seat for 30 seconds, letting the engine run, heat finally starting to pour from the vents. Her reflection stared back at her in the rearview mirror, auburn hair falling out of its ponytail, dark circles under green eyes that used to be brighter, a small scar on her left eyebrow from when she was 12 and thought she could climb anything. Her mother used to say she looked like trouble. Her mother had been gone for 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days. The phone chimed again. One more delivery. Pharmacy pickup, medical supplies, delivery address in the North District, the wealthy part of town. Jade accepted the job and pulled back onto the street. Traffic was thick with people heading home from work. Normal people with normal jobs who didn't spend their days racing against algorithms and customer ratings. Her apartment was a studio in a building that smelled like mildew and old cooking oil. She'd moved there after her mother died, after the medical bills came, after she realized that grief was expensive and the world didn't stop spinning just because yours had shattered. The stack of envelopes on her kitchen counter had grown again this week. She'd counted them this morning. 11 bills, 3 collection notices, 1 final warning from the hospital about the remaining balance on her mother's treatment. $42,000. She made approximately $3,000 a month if she worked 7 days a week and didn't get sick or injured or have car trouble. The math didn't work. It had never worked. But she kept moving anyway because stopping meant drowning, and she'd promised her mother she wouldn't give up. The pharmacy was a 24-hour chain near the hospital. Jade showed her ID, signed for the package, and checked the delivery address. Northbrook Estate. Delivery by 8 p.m. Priority medical supplies. She typed the address into her GPS. 23 minutes away. The route took her through parts of the city she rarely saw. The buildings got taller, cleaner. The streets got wider. The cars got newer and shinier. By the time she crossed into Northbrook, she felt like she'd driven into a completely different world. The houses here weren't houses. They were estates. Mansions set back from the road behind iron gates and stone walls. Every property had security cameras visible at the entrances. Some had actual guard posts. Jade's GPS directed her to a private road that wound up a hill. At the top sat an estate that made the others look modest. 3 stories of stone and glass, behind gates that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. She pulled up to the intercom at 7:23 p.m. and pressed the button. A voice crackled through immediately. Delivery? Yes, medical supplies from Riverside Pharmacy. Silence for 3 seconds. Then, wrong order was delivered 2 hours ago. We're expecting a correction. Jade checked her phone, verified the address and order number. This is the order I have. Priority delivery requested for today. Another pause. She heard muffled voices in the background, tense and urgent. The gates suddenly swung open. Come to the main entrance, quickly. The driveway curved through manicured grounds. Even in winter, everything looked maintained and elegant. Jade parked near the front steps, where a black SUV and a sedan were already stationed. A woman in scrubs appeared at the door before Jade could knock. Her dark hair was pulled back in a pixie cut, her expression sharp with stress. You have the medication? The woman didn't wait for an answer. "Let me see it." Jade handed over the sealed package. The woman tore it open right there, checking the label with the kind of focused intensity that made Jade's pulse quicken. "This is the correct dosage." Relief flooded the woman's face. The first delivery was wrong, completely wrong. "We called the pharmacy, but they'd already closed for inventory. The emergency line said the next available delivery wouldn't be until tomorrow morning." "Is someone sick?" The woman looked at Jade properly for the first time. "The woman who needs this medication has maybe 2 hours before the wrong dosage causes serious complications. You just saved her life." Through the open door, Jade caught a glimpse of the interior: marble floors, a curved staircase, artwork that probably belonged in museums, and voices, urgent, frightened voices coming from somewhere deeper in the house. An ambulance was pulling away from a side entrance, lights off but moving quickly. The woman in scrubs, Nina, her name tag read, was already turning back inside. "Thank you, send the bill to the estate." She started to close the door. Jade should have left, should have gotten back in her car, marked the delivery complete, and moved on to whatever came next. Instead, she heard herself say, "Is there anything else you need?" Nina paused. "What?" Jade didn't know why she was still standing there. "You said someone's in danger. If there's anything I can do." Nina studied her for a moment. Behind her, a child's voice called out, high and frightened. "We're fine now," Nina said, but her expression said otherwise. "Thank you for getting here quickly." The door closed. Jade walked back to her car slowly. The package had been marked delivered. Her shift was technically over. She should go home, heat up something cheap for dinner, and try to sleep before starting again tomorrow. Her phone rang as she reached for the car door. The delivery company, her manager. "Harper, we just got a complaint that you delivered the wrong medication to the Riverside Pharmacy order from 2 hours ago." Jade's stomach dropped. "That wasn't my delivery. I just completed the corrected order. The customer says the first delivery came from one of our drivers. Wrong medication, wrong dosage. Do you understand how serious that is? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen." "I wasn't working 2 hours ago. Check my log." She heard typing. A pause. "You're right, that was Jenkins. But here's the problem, Harper. Your completion rate this week is 87%. You've been late on 6 deliveries. We've had 2 complaints about damaged packages. Those weren't my fault. The first one was already damaged when I picked it up. And the second one? I'm letting you go, effective immediately. Your account is being deactivated." The words hit like cold water. "Wait, you can't. I need this job. You'll receive your final payment for today's completed deliveries within 5 business days. Good luck, Harper." The line went dead. Jade stood next to her car, phone still pressed to her ear, and felt the world tilt sideways. Fired. She'd just been fired. The delivery job had been her primary income. The other gig apps barely covered gas. Without this, she couldn't make rent, couldn't pay the minimums on the medical debt, couldn't afford to keep her car insured, couldn't afford to eat. She sat down on the curb outside the Moretti estate gates and tried to remember how to breathe. Jade didn't know how long she sat there on the cold curb, staring at her phone screen. The estate gates loomed behind her, iron bars catching the glow from security lights mounted on stone pillars. Her breath came out in visible clouds, and somewhere in the back of her mind, she registered that her fingers were going numb again. She should leave, drive home, figure out what came next. But her car felt impossibly far away, and standing up required energy she didn't have. The sound of tires on pavement made her look up. A black SUV was approaching from the main road, slowing as it neared the gates. Tinted windows, chrome details that gleamed even in the darkness. The kind of vehicle that cost more than most people earned in a year. Jade pushed herself to her feet, suddenly aware that she was sitting outside a wealthy estate looking exactly like what she was. Broke, lost, out of place. The SUV stopped at the gates. The driver's window rolled down, and a man in a dark suit leaned out to speak into the intercom. Jade couldn't hear the conversation, but the gates began opening immediately. The man glanced at her as the SUV pulled through. His eyes were sharp, assessing. Jade looked away and started walking toward her car. "Miss," she turned. The SUV had stopped just inside the gates. The rear window was rolling down. The man in the back seat had dark hair with gray at the temples, a face that could have been carved from stone, and eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe combined. Everything about him radiated authority and control. "You're the delivery driver," he said. "Not a question." "Yes. Nina mentioned you arrived with the corrected medication." His voice was measured, calm. "My mother is stable because of your timing." Jade nodded, unsure what to say. The man studied her for a moment. "Why are you still here?" The honest answer felt too pathetic to speak out loud. Jade settled for a partial truth. Just needed a minute before driving home. His gaze shifted to her phone, still clutched in her hand, then back to her face. Something in his expression suggested he understood more than she'd said. "Come inside," he said. "I'm fine, really." That wasn't a request. He opened the car door and stepped out. Up close, he was taller than she'd expected, easily over 6 feet. His presence filled the space around him in a way that made Jade instinctively step back. "My mother wants to meet the person who saved her life. Nina told her about you. I just delivered medication, that's all." "You delivered the right medication at the right time when the wrong medication could have killed her within 2 hours." He gestured toward the house. 5 minutes, then you can leave." Jade glanced at her car, at the gates, at this man who clearly wasn't used to being refused. She followed him inside. The entrance hall was even more impressive than the glimpse she'd caught earlier. Marble floors stretched toward a staircase that curved upward with wrought iron railings. Artwork hung on walls painted in warm, neutral tones. Fresh flowers sat in a vase on a center table, their fragrance subtle but present. Nina appeared from a side hallway, relief visible on her face when she saw the man. "She's asking for you. Her vitals are stable, but she's exhausted. I'm bringing someone to meet her first." He looked at Jade. "What's your name?" "Jade Harper. Come with me, Miss Harper." They walked down a hallway lined with more artwork and photographs. Jade caught glimpses of family pictures, a younger version of the man beside her, smiling with a woman who had kind eyes, a small child with dark curly hair, an elderly couple standing in front of this very house. Nina led them to a room where the door stood partially open. Inside, Jade could see medical equipment. Monitors displaying vital signs, an IV stand, and in the bed, propped up on pillows, an elderly woman with silver hair and eyes that were still sharp despite obvious illness. A small girl sat in a chair beside the bed, holding the woman's hand. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her dark, curly hair fell past her shoulders, and when she looked up at the sound of footsteps, her brown eyes were red from crying. The elderly woman smiled when she saw the man. "Vittorio, you're home." So this was Vittorio Moretti, the name on the estate. The man who commanded immediate obedience from everyone around him, Mama. Vittorio moved to the bedside, his entire demeanor shifting. The authority remained, but something softer emerged beneath it. "You scared us. I'm still here." Catherine Moretti's voice was weak but steady. Her gaze moved past her son to Jade, standing awkwardly in the doorway. "Is this her?" "Yes, Jade Harper, the delivery driver." Catherine extended a thin hand. "Come closer, child. Let me see you properly." Jade approached the bed slowly, very aware of the little girl watching her every movement. Up close, Catherine's illness was more apparent. The thinness of her frame, the way her skin seemed almost translucent. But her eyes held strength that contradicted her physical fragility. "Thank you," Catherine said simply. "Nina tells me the first delivery was completely wrong. If you hadn't arrived when you did with the correct medication, I would be in a hospital right now, or worse. I'm glad I could help. More than help. You saved my life tonight." Catherine glanced at her son. "Vittorio, we owe this girl a debt." "I know, Mama." "The first delivery," Jade said carefully. "How did that happen? Pharmacies have protocols." Something flickered across Vittorio's face. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Catherine squeezed her granddaughter's hand. "Lucy, sweetheart, why don't you show Nina where I put those cookies earlier?" The little girl didn't move. Her eyes stayed fixed on Jade. "It's all right," Catherine said gently. "I'm not going anywhere." Lucy stood slowly, reluctantly releasing her grandmother's hand. She walked past Jade without making a sound, followed by Nina, who gave Vittorio a meaningful look before leaving. When they were alone, Catherine's expression turned serious. A pharmacy error wasn't an accident. Someone wanted the wrong medication delivered. Someone who knows exactly what dosage would cause complications without being immediately obvious as poisoning. Jade felt cold spread through her chest. Someone tried to kill you? Someone tried to make it look like natural progression of my illness. Catherine corrected. I have stag. E4 cancer. I've refused treatment. Everyone knows I'm dying. A sudden decline wouldn't raise suspicions. Vittorio moved to the window, his back rigid. Marco Tessari. It has his fingerprints all over it. The name meant nothing to Jade, but the way Vittorio said it made something clear. These weren't normal people with normal problems. You should go, Jade said, backing toward the door. I'm glad you're okay, but I don't need to know any of this. Too late, Vittorio said without turning. You're already involved. You delivered the medication that saved her. Whoever arranged the first delivery will know it was corrected. They'll wonder how. They'll look into it. I'm nobody. I'm just a delivery driver who lost her job tonight. Vittorio turned to face her. I heard you on the phone outside. You were fired. Heat flooded Jade's face. You were listening? I observe everything that happens on my property. He crossed his arms. You were fired because of a mistake someone else made. A mistake that was intentional sabotage aimed at my family. That makes it my responsibility. I don't want your money. Good, because I'm not offering charity. Catherine's voice cut through the tension. Sit down, Jade. Please, just for a moment. Jade sat in the chair Lucy had vacated, mostly because her legs felt unsteady. Catherine studied her with those sharp hazel eyes. Tell me about yourself. Where do you live? Do you have family? I live alone. My mother died 2 years ago. Something softened in Catherine's expression. I'm sorry, that's a hard loss to carry. Jade looked down at her hands, at the calluses and small scars from countless deliveries and manual labor. She had cancer too. We tried everything. It didn't matter. And the medical bills, Catherine said quietly. They're still following you. It wasn't a question. Jade nodded. Vittorio, Catherine said. Leave us alone for a minute. Mama, go check on Lucy, make sure she's eating something, and give me 5 minutes with this girl without hovering like a guard dog. Vittorio hesitated, clearly unused to being dismissed. But he left, closing the door behind him. Catherine waited until his footsteps faded. He's protective, sometimes overbearing, but his heart is in the right place, even when his methods aren't. What do you want from me? Honesty. Catherine shifted slightly, wincing. You made a choice tonight that cost you everything. You could have just dropped off that medication and left. Instead, you asked if we needed anything else. Why? Jade thought about it. I don't know. You were in trouble. It felt wrong to just walk away. Even though it wasn't your problem? My mother used to say that being able to help makes it your problem. If you can do something and choose not to, that's a decision too. Catherine smiled. I would have liked your mother. She reached for a glass of water on the bedside table, her hand trembling slightly. I'm dying, Jade. The doctors give me 3 to 6 months, maybe less. I've made peace with it, but Lucy hasn't. She's 7 years old, and she's about to lose the second mother figure in her life. I'm sorry. Lucy's mother died 3 years ago. Since then, she hasn't spoken, not a word. Selective mutism, the therapists call it. She communicates through gestures and writing, but her voice disappeared with her mother. Catherine's eyes glistened. I'm all she has left besides Vittorio, and he's off and away. She needs someone. Not a replacement, but someone who sees her. Someone kind. Jade began to understand where this was going. I'm not qualified to help a child with trauma. You're qualified to be present, to be patient, to show up. Catherine's hand found Jade's. That's all anyone can really do. Outside the window, Jade could see the city lights spreading out below the estate. So far from her small apartment, from her old life that had just imploded. What exactly are you asking me to do? Stay here, help Nina with my care. Spend time with Lucy. Let her get used to you before I'm gone. Catherine's grip tightened slightly. In exchange, room and board, medical coverage, and enough money to clear your debts. That's too much. That's survival for both of us. Catherine released her hand. I know what my son is. I know the world he operates in. I won't pretend this is simple or safe. But I'm an old woman running out of time, and I need to know Lucy won't be alone when I'm gone. You have the eyes of someone who understands loss. That's what she needs. The door opened. Vittorio stepped inside, Lucy trailing behind him. Lucy walked directly to the bed and climbed back into her chair. But this time, her eyes went to Jade, watching, waiting. "What do you say?" Catherine asked. Jade looked at the little girl who hadn't spoken in 3 years, at the dying woman who'd somehow seen through her in minutes, at Vittorio, who stood like a sentinel in the doorway. "I need to think about it." "Fair enough." Catherine settled back into her pillows. "Think quickly. Time is something I'm running out of." Jade left the estate at 9:15 with a business card containing a phone number and instructions to call within 24 hours with her decision. She drove home on autopilot, her mind spinning through everything that had happened in the last 3 hours. Her apartment building looked even more depressing than usual. The flickering hallway light on the 3rd floor still hadn't been fixed. Someone's trash bag had split open near the stairs, and nobody had bothered to clean it up. The smell of cigarette smoke and old cooking grease hung in the air like it always did. Inside her studio, Jade dropped her keys on the counter next to the stack of bills she couldn't pay. She peeled off her delivery jacket and stood in the center of the small space, looking at the life she'd built after her mother died. It wasn't much. A futon that served as both couch and bed, a kitchenette with 2 working burners, a bathroom where the shower pressure was terrible and the tiles were cracked. Boxes she still hadn't unpacked because this place had never felt permanent enough to bother. This was what she'd been fighting so hard to keep. This tiny, depressing space that cost $800 a month she could barely afford. Jade pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. $214 in checking, $53 in savings. Rent was due in 8 days. The electric bill was overdue. Her car insurance payment would bounce if she didn't transfer money she didn't have. She thought about Catherine's offer. Room and board, medical coverage, enough money to clear the debts that had been suffocating her for 2 years. It sounded too good to be true, because it probably was. Jade had heard the name Marco Tessari. She'd caught the implication that someone had deliberately tried to harm Catherine. She'd seen the way security surrounded the estate, the careful way Nina and Vittorio spoke about certain topics. The photographs on the walls showing 3 generations of a family that clearly had power and resources most people couldn't imagine. She wasn't naive. She knew what Vittorio Moretti likely was, what his family business probably involved. Getting involved with people like that was dangerous. Smart people kept their distance. Smart people found other solutions. But smart people usually had options. Jade looked at the photograph of her mother on the small shelf above her futon. It was from before the cants. Rare, when her mother's smile still reached her eyes and her face hadn't been hollowed out by illness and pain. Her mother had worked 3 jobs trying to afford treatment, had fought for every extra month, every extra week, had refused to give up even when the doctors said there was no point in continuing. And Jade had watched her die anyway, buried under medical debt that accomplished nothing except destroying their savings and leaving Jade alone with bills she'd never be able to pay. What would her mother tell her to do? Probably to run, to stay away from wealthy families with dangerous connections and offers that came with invisible strings attached. But her mother had also said that being able to help made it your problem, that choosing to walk away when you could make a difference was still a choice. Lucy hadn't spoken in 3 years. Catherine was dying and desperate to make sure her granddaughter wouldn't be alone, and Jade had nothing left to lose except a depressing apartment and a mountain of debt. She picked up the business card and stared at the phone number. Sleep didn't come easily that night. When it finally did, Jade dreamed of hospital rooms and bills printed in red ink, and a little girl with dark curly hair who watched everything but said nothing. She called the number at 7 the next morning. Nina answered on the 2nd ring. "Miss Harper, we were hoping to hear from you." "I'll do it. The trial period Catherine mentioned, 2 weeks. I'll let Mrs. Moretti know. Can you come by today to discuss details? I need to pack some things first, handle my apartment lease." "Vittorio can send someone to help with that. What time works for you?" The efficiency was almost startling. 2 o'clock? Perfect. The gates will be expecting you. Jade spent the morning sorting through her belongings and realizing how little she actually owned. Clothes, mostly, a few books, the photograph of her mother. Everything else was cheap furniture that had come with the apartment or items she'd accumulated without ever really caring about. She called her landlord and explained she'd be breaking her lease. He threatened to keep her deposit. She didn't have the energy to argue. At 1:30, she loaded 2 duffel bags into her car and drove toward Northbrook for the second time in less than 24 hours. In daylight, the neighborhood looked even more intimidating. Every estate screamed money and power. Her Honda felt like an insult to the perfectly maintained roads. The gates opened before she could reach the intercom. Someone had been watching for her arrival. Vittorio met her at the entrance, still wearing an expensive suit despite it being a Saturday afternoon. He looked like he'd been awake for hours, probably working on whatever business required this level of security and wealth. "Miss Harper." He gestured for her to follow him inside. "My mother is resting, but she asked me to handle the practical arrangements." They walked through the entrance hall into a study lined with bookshelves and dark wood furniture. A massive desk dominated one end of the room. Windows overlooked the grounds, showing gardens that probably looked spectacular in spring. Vittorio moved to the desk and retrieved a folder. "The arrangement is straightforward. You'll live here full-time, assisting Nino with my mother's care and spending time with Lucy. Your primary responsibility is companionship, not medical treatment. Nina handles all clinical matters." What exactly does companionship mean? Talking to my mother, reading to her, being present during meals when she feels well enough, making sure she's not alone. He opened the folder and pulled out papers. With Lucy, it means being available. She's homeschooled, so she's here most days. She may follow you around, or she may keep her distance. Let her set the pace. And if she doesn't want me here, then we reassess. But my mother has good instincts about people. If she thinks you're right for this, I trust her judgment. Jade looked at the papers he was sliding across the desk. A contract, dense with legal language. $5,000 per week, paid every Friday. Medical insurance effective immediately. Comprehensive coverage. Room and board provided. 2 weeks trial period. Either party can terminate without cause. Vittorio's voice was businesslike, crisp. After 2 weeks, if both parties agree to continue, the arrangement extends month to month. You're free to leave at any time with 48 hours notice. $5,000 per week. Jade's hands trembled slightly as she picked up the contract. "There's a non-disclosure agreement attached," Vittorio continued. "You'll be living in my home, exposed to private family matters and potentially sensitive business information. You don't speak about what you see or hear to anyone outside this house, ever. That clause survives termination of employment indefinitely." "And if I violate it?" Vittorio's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "Let's ensure that never becomes relevant." The implied threat hung in the air between them. This was the reality she'd be walking into. A world where silence wasn't just expected, but enforced. Where breaking rules had consequences that probably went far beyond legal action. Jade should have been terrified, should have put down the contract and walked away. Instead, she found a pen on the desk. "Where do I sign?" Vittorio showed her. 3 places on the employment contract, 2 on the non-disclosure agreement. Her signature looked small and uncertain next to the official letterhead. When she finished, Vittorio countersigned and placed the documents back in the folder. "Your room is on the 2nd floor, East Wing. Nina will show you. She'll explain my mother's routine and medications. Lucy's schedule is more flexible, but she usually has lessons in the morning and free time in the afternoon. When do I start?" "You already have." He moved toward the door. "One more thing, Miss Harper. My mother's condition will deteriorate. There will be difficult days. Days when she's in pain or too weak to leave bed. Days when Lucy struggles with what's happening. This isn't going to be easy. I understand. Do you?" Vittorio stopped in the doorway, looking back at her. "You'll watch someone die. You'll help a child process grief while dealing with your own. You'll live in a house where dangerous people sometimes conduct dangerous business. You'll be safe here, but safety is relative. Are you certain you understand what you've agreed to?" Jade thought about her empty apartment and crushing debt, about working 7 days a week just to fall further behind, about the slow drowning that had been her life for 2 years. "I understand that staying where I was meant dying slowly. At least this way, I'm trying something different." Something shifted in Vittorio's expression. Not quite approval, but acknowledgement. Nina's waiting in the main hall. She'll get you settled. He left without waiting for a response. Jade stood alone in the study, surrounded by expensive furniture and books she'd probably never read, and wondered what she'd just signed away. Nina appeared a moment later, offering a professional smile. Ready to see your room? The east wing was larger than Jade's entire apartment. Her room had a queen bed with a headboard that looked hand-carved, a private bathroom with tiles that weren't cracked, and windows that overlooked the gardens. The closet was bigger than her old bathroom. You'll share this floor with Lucy, Nina explained. Her room is down the hall, 3 doors that way. Mrs. Moretti's suite is on the first floor for easier access. Vittorio's is 3rd floor, opposite wing. Where's your room? I have quarters above the garage. I'm on call overnight, but I sleep there unless Mrs. Moretti needs me. Nina set a folder on the desk. This contains her medication schedule, dietary restrictions, and emergency protocols. Meet it tonight. Tomorrow I'll walk you through everything hands-on. Does Lucy know I'm staying? Mrs. Moretti told her this morning. Lucy's response was ambiguous. Nina's expression suggested that was typical. Give her space. Don't force interaction. She'll come to you when she's ready. And if she doesn't? Then we were wrong about this arrangement. Nina headed for the door. Dinner is at 6. Casual dress. Mrs. Moretti tries to eat with the family when she's feeling well enough. Tonight is one of those nights. After Nina left, Jade unpacked her 2 duffel bags into drawers and closet space that swallowed her meager belongings. Everything she owned fit in one corner of the massive closet, with room for 20 more people's wardrobes. She hung up her mother's photograph on the nightstand and sat on the bed that was softer than anything she'd slept on in years. Through the window, she could see part of the estate grounds. Security walking patrol routes, cameras mounted on strategic corners, gates that looked decorative but were clearly functional. This was her life now, at least for the next 2 weeks. Jade changed into the nicest shirt she owned and headed downstairs at 10 minutes to 6, following the sounds of quiet conversation, to a dining room that could have seated 20 people, but tonight held only 4 place settings. Catherine sat at the head of the table, looking frailer than yesterday but dressed elegantly. Vittorio stood near the windows, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and tense. And Lucy sat in a chair, 2 seats away from her grandmother, a sketchbook open in front of her. When Jade entered, Lucy looked up. Their eyes met for 3 seconds. Then Lucy returned to her drawing without any acknowledgement that Jade existed. Jade took the remaining seat and tried not to feel like she'd made a terrible mistake. The first 3 days passed in careful observation and awkward silence. Jade learned Catherine's routines quickly. Mornings were good, when pain medication still worked, and fatigue hadn't set in. Catherine liked tea with honey at 8, toast cut into small pieces she could manage without nausea, and conversation about anything except her illness. Tell me about growing up, Catherine said on the second morning while Jade helped arrange pillows. Where did you live? South District, same apartment building from age 6, until my mother got sick. Then we moved somewhere cheaper. What did your mother do? Bookkeeper for a small accounting firm. She was good with numbers. Jade poured tea, watching the steam curl upward. Used to help me with math homework even though I hated it. She'd make it into stories. If you have $5 and spend $2 on coffee, how much adventure money do you have left? Catherine smiled. Adventure money. I like that. She said life was better when you thought of spending as buying adventures instead of losing money. Wise woman. Catherine accepted the teacup with trembling hands. Lucy's mother was like that too. Turned everything into magic. Rainy days were dragon weather. Bedtime was when dreams came alive. She made the ordinary feel extraordinary. It was the first time Catherine had mentioned Lucy's mother directly. Jade waited, sensing there was more. Breast cancer, stage 4 by the time they found it. She lasted 18 months. Catherine's voice went quiet. Lucy was 4 when it started, 5 when it ended. Old enough to understand her mother was sick, not old enough to understand death is permanent. Is that when she stopped talking? Not immediately. It happened gradually over the first year after. Like her voice just faded away. Catherine set down her teacup. Every therapist says something different. Trauma response, grief manifestation, selective mutism. None of them can tell us how to bring her voice back. Through the window, Jade could see Lucy in the garden with a tutor, working through lessons at an outdoor table despite the December cold. The girl wore a thick coat and moved her pencil across paper with focused intensity. "She watches you," Catherine observed. "Haven't you noticed?" Jade had noticed. Lucy appeared in doorways when Jade passed, sat in rooms Jade occupied, always maintaining distance but present. Never approaching, never engaging, but always aware. What does she want? To figure out if you're safe, if you'll stay, if you're worth the risk of caring. Catherine shifted position, wincing slightly. "Lucy's lost 2 mothers already. She's counting me as the second. Letting someone new in means accepting they could leave too. I signed a contract. I'm not leaving." Contracts mean nothing to a 7-year-old who's learned that people disappear no matter what they promise. Catherine caught Jade's eye. "Don't try to force connection. Just exist near her. Let her come to you." By the 4th day, Jade had memorized medication schedules and emergency protocols. She knew Catherine took anti-nausea medication 30 minutes before meals, pain management in 4-hour intervals, and sleeping pills only when absolutely necessary, because they made her groggy the next morning. She knew Lucy took her lessons from 9 to noon, practiced piano on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and spent most afternoons in her room or the library, drawing in sketchbooks she never showed anyone. She knew Vittorio left most mornings before 7 and returned after dark, sometimes with men in suits who gathered in his study with voices too low to overhear. She knew security changed shifts at 6-hour intervals, and the cook prepared meals that went mostly uneaten because Catherine's appetite had shrunk to almost nothing. What she didn't know was whether any of this mattered, whether her presence made any difference, whether she was helping or just taking money to watch a family disintegrate slowly. The answer came on the 5th night. Jade woke at 2:30 to sounds from the hallway. Footsteps running. Nina's voice, urgent but controlled. "Get Vittorio, now." She pulled on clothes and emerged from her room to see Nina rushing toward Catherine's suite. Security was already moving, coordinating through earpieces. Jade followed Nina downstairs, heart pounding. Catherine's room was controlled chaos. The monitors were beeping erratically. Catherine was conscious, but struggling to breathe, her face pale and drawn. Nina worked quickly, adjusting medication, checking vitals, speaking in calm, professional tones that didn't match the tension in her movements. Vittorio appeared in tactical pants and an undershirt, hair disheveled from sleep. What happened? Respiratory distress. Her oxygen levels dropped suddenly. Nina was already on the phone with Catherine's oncologist. "We may need to transport to the hospital." "No hospital." Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. "We discussed this." "Mama, if you need help." "No hospital, Vittorio." Catherine's hand found his. "Just manage the pain, keep me comfortable. That's all I want." Lucy stood in the doorway in pajamas covered with stars and moo. Her face frozen in terror. She was shaking, both hands pressed against the doorframe, like she needed something solid to hold on to. Nobody else noticed her. They were focused on Catherine, on monitors and medications and making critical decisions. Jade moved to Lucy and knelt down to her level. "Hey, your grandmother's okay. Nina's helping her." Lucy's eyes were locked on the bed, on her grandmother struggling to breathe. "This is scary," Jade said quietly. "I know. But Nina knows what she's doing, and your dad is here. Everyone's taking care of her." Lucy didn't look at Jade, didn't acknowledge her presence. But when Jade offered her hand, Lucy took it. Her small fingers were ice-cold and trembling. They stood there together while Nina administered medication and Catherine's breathing slowly stabilized. Vittorio held his mother's other hand, his expression carved from stone, but his knuckles white with tension. After 15 minutes that felt like hours, Catherine's oxygen levels climbed back to acceptable range. Her breathing eased. The crisis cast. "False alarm," Catherine managed, attempting a smile. "Sorry for the drama." "Don't apologize for being sick," Vittorio said roughly. Nina made notes on her tablet. "I'm increasing the respiratory support medication. This will happen again. We need to be prepared." Understood. Vittorio finally noticed Lucy in the doorway, Jade kneeling beside her. Something flickered across his face. "Lucy, come say goodnight to Nana." Lucy didn't move. Her grip on Jade's hand tightened. "It's okay," Catherine said. "Let her process. This was frightening." Vittorio approached them instead. He looked at his daughter with an expression that broke through his usual controlled demeanor. revealing exhaustion and fear and helplessness. "Lucy, I need you to go back to bed now." Lucy shook her head, a tiny movement but definite. "Please, sweetheart. Nana needs rest and you need sleep." Lucy's other hand reached for Jade, grabbing her sleeve. Jade looked at Vittorio, asking silent permission. He nodded once. "How about I walk you back to your room?" Jade suggested. "We can leave your door open so you can hear if anything happens, okay?" Lucy considered this for a long moment, then released Jade's hand and walked toward the hallway. Jade followed, very aware of Vittorio watching them leave. Lucy's room was larger than Jade's, decorated in soft colors with bookshelves full of stories and toys organized in neat rows. A nightlight shaped like a crescent moon glowed near the bed. Lucy climbed under her covers and pulled them up to her chin. Her eyes were still wide and frightened. Jade sat on the edge of the bed. "My mom was sick too, for a long time. There were a lot of nights like this. Scary moments when I didn't know if she'd be okay." Lucy watched her without blinking. "I used to count things to calm down, like how many books were on the shelf, how many stars I could see out the window. Just something to focus on that wasn't the scary thing." Jade glanced around the room. "Want to count something together?" Lucy pointed at the ceiling. Jade looked up and saw glow-in-the-dark stars arranged in constellations. Stars, good choice. Jade started counting out loud, slowly and softly. By the time she reached 37, Lucy's breathing had evened out. By 52, her eyes were closing. Jade finished counting all 63 stars, then stood carefully and moved toward the door. "Stay." The word was so quiet, Jade almost missed it. She turned back, wondering if she'd imagined it. Lucy was looking at her. "Stay, please." The first words Lucy had spoken in 3 years, and they were asking Jade not to leave. Jade's throat tightened. "Okay, I'll stay." She settled into the chair near the window, where she could see both Lucy and the hallway. Lucy's eyes drifted closed, but her breathing didn't relax completely until she fell asleep. Jade sat in the dark room, listening to a 7-year-old breathe and wondering what she'd gotten herself into. Vittorio appeared in the doorway an hour later. He looked at his sleeping daughter, then at Jade keeping watch. "She spoke," Jade whispered. "I heard." His voice was rough. "Nina has monitors in all the rooms, audio feeds to security." Of course they did. "Catherine's stable?" "For now. Nina says we'll have more episodes like this. It's part of the progression." He leaned against the doorframe, and for the first time since Jade had met him, he looked less like a crime boss and more like an exhausted father. "Thank you for staying with her." "She asked me to. She doesn't ask anyone for anything. Not since her mother died." Vittorio crossed his arms. "My mother was right about you." "How can you tell after 5 days?" "Because Lucy spoke. Because she's sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. Because you didn't run when things got difficult." He pushed off the doorframe. "Get some rest, Miss Harper. Tomorrow won't be easier." He left without waiting for a response. Jade stayed in the chair until dawn started breaking through the windows. Lucy stirred around 6. Opened her eyes and found Jade still there. She didn't speak again, but she smiled, small and hesitant, but real. And Jade understood that she'd just been given something precious. Not trust, not yet, but the possibility of it. At breakfast that morning, Catherine looked tired but pleased. "Nina told me what happened, that Lucy talked." 2 words. 2 more than we've heard in 3 years. Catherine reached across the table and squeezed Jade's hand. "Welcome to the family, dear." Officially, Lucy sat in her usual spot, eating cereal and drawing in a sketchbook. When she finished her breakfast, she slid the sketchbook across the table to Jade. The drawing showed 2 figures sitting in a room with stars on the ceiling. One small, one larger. Both holding hands, underneath in careful 7-year-old handwriting. "Thank you for staying." Jade looked at the little girl who'd lost so much and was trying so hard to protect what remained. "You're welcome." Jade said quietly, "I'll stay as long as you need me." Lucy nodded once, took back her sketchbook, and returned to drawing. Vittorio watched the exchange from the doorway with an expression Jade couldn't quite read. Then he left for whatever business occupied his days, and Jade began learning what it meant to be part of a family held together by necessity and approaching loss. The 2-week trial period had become irrelevant. She was already in too deep to walk away now. 3 weeks became a month. December gave way to January, with snow that blanketed the estate grounds in white silence. Catherine's good days became less frequent. Some mornings, she managed to sit in the sunroom and read while Jade kept her company. Other days, she barely left bed, pain medication making her drowsy and conversation difficult. Nina adjusted treatment plans constantly. Walking the line between comfort and consciousness, Lucy's progress was slower but undeniable. She spoke occasionally now, always in short sentences directed at specific people, mostly Catherine, sometimes Jade, never her father, though Jade caught her watching Vittorio with an expression that looked like longing, mixed with something harder to name. "Why doesn't she talk to him?" Jade asked Catherine one afternoon, while Lucy was at her piano lesson. Catherine looked up from her book, considering the question carefully. "Because he left. He lives here. Physically, yes. See, emotionally." Catherine set down her book. "When my daughter-in-law died, Vittorio threw himself into work. Business expanded. Territory grew. He became more powerful and more absent. Lucy associates her father with abandonment, even though he's never actually left. He's trying to protect her by building walls and hiring security and making himself untouchable." Catherine's expression was sad. "Vittorio thinks power keeps people safe. Lucy just wants her father to sit with her and be present. Those things aren't compatible in his mind." Through the window, Jade could see Vittorio crossing the grounds with 2 men in dark suits. Even from a distance, his body language radiated authority. Everything about him was controlled, calculated, distant. "He loves her," Jade said, "desperately. But love and presence aren't the same thing." Catherine shifted position with visible effort. "You're good with her, you know. Lucy's starting to trust you. She still barely talks. She follows you everywhere, draws pictures for you. Ask Nina if you'd be here for her birthday next month." Catherine smiled. That's Lucy's version of attachment. Jade helped adjust the pillows supporting Catherine's back. The older woman had lost more weight in recent weeks, her frame becoming increasingly fragile, but her mind stayed sharp, her observations cutting through pretense. "What was Lucy's mother like?" Jade asked. "Sophia." Catherine's eyes went distant. "She was light itself, laughed constantly, made Vittorio softer, more human. When she died, it was like someone turned off the sun in his house." She paused. "Lucy looks exactly like her. Same eyes, same hair, same mannerisms. I think that's partly why Vittorio struggles. Every time he looks at his daughter, he sees what he lost." The piano music drifted through the house, hesitant notes that suggested Lucy was learning something new. "He needs to face it," Catherine continued quietly. "Whatever he's been running from these past 3 years. Because when I'm gone, Lucy will only have him, and security teams and money won't fill the hole I'll leave. Don't talk like that. Jade dear, we both know I'm dying. Pretending otherwise wastes the time we have left." Catherine caught her hand. "I need you to promise me something. When I'm gone, don't let him pull away from her. Don't let him hide in work and convince himself that providing equals parenting. Make him show up. I'm just the hired help. I can't make Vittorio Moretti do anything." "You're not hired help anymore. You're family. Lucy's decided it, and so have I." Catherine squeezed her hand with surprising strength. "Promise me." Jade thought about the little girl who counted stars to fall asleep and drew pictures of people holding hands. "I promise." That evening, Lucy appeared in Jade's doorway while Jade was reading. The girl held a wooden box painted with flowers. "What's that?" Jade asked. Lucy came inside and sat on the bed, opening the box carefully. Inside were photographs, small toys, a dried flower, a bracelet made of colorful beads. "My mama's things," Lucy said quietly, touching each item like it was precious. "Nana saved them for me." It was the longest sentence Lucy had spoken to Jade. She set aside her book and moved to sit beside the girl. This was her favorite necklace. Lucy held up a delicate silver chain with a small pendant. Papa gave it to her for their anniversary. "It's beautiful." She wore it every day, even in the hospital. Lucy's fingers traced the pendant. "I was there when she stopped breathing. I held her hand." Jade's chest tightened. 5 years old and watching her mother die. Papa wasn't there. He was working. He came later, but she was already gone. Lucy set down the necklace carefully. He cried. I never saw him cry before or after. Just that one time. Lucy, I stopped talking because words didn't matter. I told Mama I loved her and she died anyway. I asked her not to leave and she left anyway. Words don't change anything. Lucy looked at Jade with eyes too old for 7. But you stayed when I asked. So maybe words work sometimes. Jade pulled Lucy into a hug. This small girl carrying enormous grief. Lucy stiffened for a moment, then relaxed against her. Words do work, Jade said quietly. They don't fix everything. They can't stop bad things from happening, but they matter. Your mama knew you loved her. That mattered. Does your mama know you loved her? The question hit unexpectedly hard. I hope so. I told her every day, even at the end when she couldn't respond anymore. Do you still miss her? Every single day. Lucy pulled back slightly. Does it get easier? Jade thought about how to answer honestly without making it worse. It gets different. The hurt doesn't go away, but you learn to carry it. And you remember the good parts more than the bad parts eventually. Lucy considered this, then started putting her treasures back in the box. Nana's going to die soon too. There was no point in lying. Yes. I don't want her to. I know. Will you stay after, when she's gone? Lucy's voice went very small. Or will you leave like everyone else? Jade remembered her promise to Catherine. I'll stay as long as you need me. What if I need you forever? The question was asked so seriously, with such desperate hope, that Jade's throat closed up. She touched Lucy's hair gently. Then I guess I'll be here forever. Lucy nodded once, satisfied with this answer. She closed the box and stood. Can we count stars again tonight? I have bad dreams sometimes. Of course. After Lucy left, Jade sat on her bed and wondered when this had stopped being a job and started being something else entirely. When this strange, broken family had wrapped itself around her heart without her noticing. Her phone showed messages from her old life. Former coworkers asking where she'd gone. Her landlord confirming lease termination. A debt collector who'd finally stopped calling after she'd made a substantial payment with her first paycheck from the Morettis. That life felt impossibly distant now, like something that had happened to someone else. Vittorio found her in the library 2 days later. She was reading while Lucy drew at the table nearby, comfortable silence between them. Miss Harper, a moment. Jade followed him into the hallway. He looked tired, stress evident in the tight set of his shoulders and the shadows under his eyes. My mother's health is declining faster than expected, he said without preamble. Her oncologist thinks we're looking at weeks now, not months, maybe less. The words hit like a physical blow, even though Jade had known this was coming. Nina's increasing palliative care measures. There will be more difficult nights. Vittorio's voice stayed controlled, but something flickered behind his eyes. Lucy will need support through this, more than I can provide. I'll be here. I know you will. That's not what concerns me. He glanced toward the library where Lucy was visible through the doorway. What concerns me is what happens after. When my mother's gone and Lucy's grief becomes acute. When the stability you've built over these weeks shatters. We'll handle it together. Will we? Vittorio's gaze sharpened. You've been here 6 weeks, Miss Harper. You've done remarkable work with my daughter. But this is about to get much harder. I need to know you won't leave when it does. Jade met his eyes directly. I made a promise to Lucy and to your mother. Oh, you don't break promises. Everyone breaks eventually. When things get bad enough, when the cost gets too high, people leave. His voice went rough. I've learned that lesson thoroughly. I'm not your wife. The words came out sharper than intended. Vittoria's expression went cold. No, he said quietly. You're not. Sophia never would have walked into this situation voluntarily. She was smart enough to know better. She loved you. That's why she stayed. And look where that got her. Dead at 32, leaving a traumatized child behind. Vittorio turned away. Love doesn't protect anyone, Miss Harper. It just makes the loss worse. He walked away before Jade could respond. That night, Catherine asked Jade to sit with her after Lucy went to bed. The medication made Catherine's speech slightly slurred, but her eyes were clear. Vittorio spoke to you today, Catherine said. Not a question. About your prognosis. About his fear that you'll leave. Catherine shifted carefully. He doesn't trust easily anymore. Losing Sophia broke something fundamental in him. He built walls to protect Lucy, but mostly he built them to protect himself. He thinks everyone leaves eventually, because in his experience, they do. Death, betrayal, business alliances that crumble. Catherine's hand found Jade's. You're the first person since Sophia that Lucy's truly attached to. That terrifies him. Because if you leave, it will confirm everything he believes about trust and connection. I'm not leaving. I believe you. But Vittorio won't. Not until you prove it by staying through the worst parts. Catherine's grip tightened weakly. The parts that are coming soon. When I'm in pain and diminished, and dying in ways that aren't dignified or peaceful. When Lucy falls apart and there's nothing anyone can do to fix it. When this house fills with grief that suffocates everything else. I can handle it. Can you? Catherine searched her face. Because this is your chance to leave, Jade. Before you're in too deep. Before walking away becomes abandonment instead of practical choice. I'll understand if you go. I'll even help you. Jade thought about Lucy counting stars. About the drawings left on her desk. About promises made and the weight they carried. I'm staying, she said firmly. Through all of it, you have my word. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Then I can let go knowing Lucy won't be alone. That's all I needed to hear. She fell asleep shortly after, her breathing shallow but steady. Jade sat in the chair beside the bed and kept watch like she had so many nights with her own mother. Outside, snow fell silently over the estate, covering everything in white that looked pure until you remembered what it was hiding underneath. The security alert came at 10:23 on a Tuesday morning that had started like any other. Jade was reading to Catherine in the sunroom when the first alarm sounded. A low tone that cut through the quiet like a knife. Catherine's eyes snapped open from the doze she'd fallen into mid-chapter. That's the perimeter breach alarm, Catherine said, suddenly alert despite medication. Get Lucy, now. Jade ran toward the music room where Lucy's piano lesson was supposed to be happening. The hallway was already filling with security personnel, moving with practiced efficiency. Someone grabbed Jade's arm as she passed. Ma'am, you need to return to Mrs. Moretti's suite. Lockdown protocol. I need to get Lucy first. Security is handling the child. Please return to... I'm not leaving her. Jade pulled free and kept running. The music room was empty. Piano bench overturned. Sheet music scattered across the floor. Jade's heart stopped. Lucy. Nina appeared from a side door. Lucy clutched in her arms. The girl's face was white with terror, her body rigid. Thank God, Jade breathed. What's happening? Surveillance spotted vehicles, matching Marco Tessari's fleet on approach. 3 cars, multiple occupants. Nina's voice stayed professional, but fear edged her words. Vittorio ordered immediate lockdown. We need to get everyone to the safe room. Lucy struggled in Nina's grip, reaching for Jade. Jade took her immediately. And the girl wrapped arms and legs around her like a frightened monkey. Where's Vittorio? Jade asked, following Nina through corridors she'd never seen before, deeper into the house. Already mobilized with his men. They'll intercept before anyone reaches the main house. Nina opened a concealed door behind a bookshelf. This way. The safe room was behind 3 feet of reinforced steel. Inside, it looked like a small apartment. Couch, supplies, medical equipment. Monitors showing security camera feeds from across the estate. Catherine was already there, looking smaller than ever in a wheelchair Nina must have used to transport her quickly. She held out her arms when she saw Lucy. Come here, darling girl. Lucy wouldn't release Jade. Her face was buried in Jade's shoulder, her whole body trembling. It's okay, Jade murmured, sitting down with Lucy still attached to her. We're safe here. Your dad's handling it. Vittorio knows what he's doing, Catherine said, though her expression was tight with worry. This isn't the first time Marco has tested our defenses. Nina locked the safe room door, the sound of bolts sliding home disturbingly final. She moved to the monitors, checking feeds and adjusting views. Jade could see the estate grounds on multiple screens. Security personnel, taking positions behind barriers and walls. 3 black SUVs approaching the main gates. And Vittorio standing at the entrance with 6 men, all armed, all radiating controlled violence. Lucy's grip tightened when she glimpsed her father on the screen. Marco's making a statement, Catherine said quietly. Showing us he can reach us whenever he wants, reminding us we're vulnerable. Why? Jade asked. What does he gain from this? Territory. Power. My son refuses to cede ground in the business disputes they've been having. Catherine's hands twisted together. Marco thinks if he can eliminate our family or force us into submission, he'll control the entire northern district. You mean kill you? Catherine didn't flinch from the blunt words. Yes. On the monitors, the SUVs stopped at the gates. Men emerged, at least a dozen of them. One stepped forward to speak with Vittorio through the iron bars. Nina adjusted the audio feed. Voices crackled through speakers. I'm just here to deliver a message, a man's voice said. Not Vittorio, someone older, rougher. Marco can call if he wants to talk, Vittorio replied, his tone ice cold. He tried, you didn't answer, so here we are. Trespassing on private property with armed men. That's not a message, that's a declaration of war. It's a reminder, you've been expanding into territory that doesn't belong to you, taking contracts that were promised elsewhere. Marco's been patient, but patience has limits. Tell Marco if he has concerns, we can discuss them properly, through proper channels. This performance isn't necessary. The older man laughed. Proper channels, that's rich coming from you, Moretti. We both know how things really work. Then you know showing up here was a mistake. Movement on another monitor caught Jade's attention. More security personnel appearing on rooftops. Tactical positions. They'd been there all along, just waiting. Marco's men noticed too. The casual postures shifted to alert tension. We're leaving, the older man said. But the message is delivered. Marco wants the riverside contracts. He wants the harbor access agreements. And he wants acknowledgement that the North District doesn't belong to you anymore. He can want whatever he likes. Wanting and getting are different things. Your mother's sick, Moretti. Your daughter's a child. You're stretched thin, trying to protect them and maintain business. Something's going to give. Better it's territory than family. Vittorio moved so fast the camera almost didn't catch it. One moment he was standing still. The next, he had the older man pressed against the gate, forearm across his throat. You threaten my family again, and I'll deliver you back to Marco in pieces. Is that message clear enough? Lucy whimpered against Jade's shoulder. Catherine's face had gone ashen. The older man struggled briefly, then went still. Crystal clear, Vittorio released him and stepped back. The older man rubbed his throat, hatred burning in his eyes, but retreated to the SUVs without another word. The vehicles departed slowly, deliberately, a show of control even in retreat. The security feeds showed Vittorio remaining at the gates until the SUVs disappeared from view. Then he turned and walked back toward the house, his men falling in around him. Nina exhaled slowly. They're gone. For now, Catherine said. Marco's escalating. That pharmacy error 6 weeks ago was testing our alertness. This is testing our defenses. Next time, it won't be a test. Lucy finally lifted her head from Jade's shoulder. Her face was tear-streaked and her eyes were huge. Papa? He's fine, Jade assured her. He's coming back inside. See? She pointed at the monitor showing Vittorio entering through the front doors. He could have died, Lucy whispered. Those men had guns. Your father had more men with bigger guns, Jade replied. Nina said pragmatically. Marco wouldn't actually attack here. It would be too costly. This was theater. Terrifying theater, Jade muttered. Catherine reached out and Lucy finally left Jade's lap to go to her grandmother. Catherine held her close, murmuring soft words Jade couldn't hear. 15 minutes passed before Vittorio opened the safe room door. He looked harder than Jade had ever seen him. Something dangerous visible beneath his controlled surface. His eyes went to Lucy first. You okay, sweetheart? Lucy nodded but didn't speak. Miss Harper? We're fine. Scared, but fine. Good. He helped Catherine from her wheelchair, supporting her weight easily. Nina, can you take my mother back to her suite? I need to speak with Miss Harper. Something in his tone made Jade's stomach clench. Nina wheeled Catherine out, Lucy walking beside them, looking back at her father with an expression that might have been fear or might have been something else. When they were alone, Vittorio closed the safe room door again. "You need to leave," he said without preamble. Jade blinked. "What?" "This situation is deteriorating faster than expected. Marco's getting bolder. Next time, it might not be a warning. It might be an actual assault." Vittorio crossed his arms. "I can't guarantee your safety here anymore. I'm not leaving." "That's not a request. I'll pay out your contract through the end of the year. I'll provide references. But you need to go before this gets worse. Lucy needs me." "Lucy will be devastated if something happens to you because you were caught in the crossfire of business you don't understand." Vittorio's voice stayed level, but intensity burned underneath. "I'm trying to protect you. By sending me away, that's your solution to everything, isn't it? Push people away before they can get hurt. Keep everyone at distance, build walls and call it protection." Jade stood up, anger replacing fear. "Your daughter just watched armed men threaten her family. She's terrified. And you want to remove the one stable presence she has besides your dying mother? Better you leave now than die here later." "I'm not going to die. You have an army of security. You clearly know how to handle threats. And I'm not some delicate flower who faints at the first sign of danger." Jade moved closer. "I promised Lucy I'd stay. I promised your mother I'd stay. Those promises matter more than your fear." "My fear?" Vittorio's control cracked slightly. "You think this is about fear? I think you're terrified of Lucy getting attached to someone else you can't control. Someone who might leave like Sophia did. So you're manufacturing reasons to push me away before that attachment gets any deeper. My wife didn't leave, she died. And you've been punishing yourself and everyone else ever since." Jade softened her voice slightly. "Vittorio, I understand loss. I understand wanting to prevent more pain. But you can't protect Lucy from life. You can only show up for her when life gets hard. What do you think I'm doing? Running a criminal empire and calling it parenting. Hiring security and calling it love. Pushing away the people trying to help and calling it protection." Jade held his gaze. "Lucy doesn't need a fortress. She needs her father. Present and vulnerable and willing to let people in." Vittorio's jaw clenched. For a moment, Jade thought he might actually order her removed physically. Instead, he turned away. "My mother's health is failing. Marco's circling like a predator, smelling blood. My daughter barely speaks to me. And you think the solution is vulnerability? I think the solution is stop hiding behind work and walls and start being human again." Silence stretched between them, tense and fragile. Finally, Vittorio spoke without turning around. "If you stay, you follow security protocols without question. You don't leave the estate without clearance. And if I say it's time to go, you go. No arguments." "Agreed. I still think this is a mistake." "Noted." Jade moved toward the door. "But I'm staying anyway." She left him in the safe room, surrounded by monitors showing an estate preparing for war, and went to find Lucy. The girl was in her room, sitting on her bed with her box of treasures open. She looked up when Jade entered. "Are you leaving?" Lucy asked quietly. "No. Papa said you should." "I know. But I'm staying." Jade sat beside her. "I made you a promise, remember?" Lucy nodded slowly. "Forever." "Forever." Lucy leaned against Jade's side. "I'm scared." "Me too. But we'll be scared together. And your dad will keep us safe. That's what he does. He's good at keeping people safe, just not good at staying with them." Lucy's voice was matter-of-fact, but pain edged the words. "Then we'll work on that part," Jade said, "together." Outside, security continued reinforcing the estate, preparing for the next threat, the next crisis, the next test of how much this fragile family could withstand before breaking completely. But in Lucy's room, two people who'd both lost too much held on to each other and tried to believe that staying was enough. That showing up mattered, that promises made in darkness could survive the light. Catherine's decline accelerated after the security incident. as if the stress had broken something fundamental in her already failing body. Within 3 days, she was bedridden permanently. Within a week, she was sleeping more than she was awake. Nina increased pain medication to levels that left Catherine barely coherent during her waking hours. The vibrant woman who'd interviewed Jade 6 weeks ago had become a shadow, her voice weak, her body frail, beyond recognition. Lucy refused to leave her grandmother's side. She set up her schoolwork at the table in Catherine's suite, ate meals there, slept in the chair beside the bed. Jade stayed with her, keeping silent vigil while a family fell apart in slow motion. Vittorio came and went between business obligations he wouldn't discuss, but Jade noticed the tension radiating from him increasing daily. The security presence doubled. Men in suits arrived at odd hours for meetings behind closed doors. Something was building toward a breaking point. It came on a Friday evening at the beginning of February. Catherine woke from a medication haze, more lucid than she'd been in days. Her eyes found Vittorio first, standing by the window, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and tense. "Vittorio, come here." He ended the call immediately and moved to her bedside. Lucy looked up from her drawing, and Jade set aside the book she'd been pretending to read. "I need to talk to all of you," Catherine said. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but something in it commanded attention. "Well, I still can." "Mama, don't. Hush. Let me speak." Catherine gestured weakly for Lucy to come closer. "My darling girl, my sweet Lucy, I'm so sorry I'm leaving you." Lucy's eyes filled with tears. "Don't go, Nonna. I don't have a choice about going, but I do have a choice about what I leave behind." Catherine touched Lucy's face with trembling fingers. "I'm leaving you so much love, more than you can possibly hold. Your mama's love and mine and your papa's, even when he's bad at showing it." "I'm trying, Mama," Vittorio said roughly. "I know, but trying isn't enough anymore." Catherine's gaze shifted to him, sharp despite her weakness. "You need to actually do it. Stop running from grief and face it. Stop hiding behind Wilk and be present. Lucy doesn't need a protector. She needs a father. I'm keeping her safe. You're keeping her isolated." Catherine's hand found his. "Vittorio, I love you, but you've been half dead since Sophia passed. You went through the motions of living while your soul stayed buried with your wife. That needs to end, for Lucy's sake and yours." Vittorio's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Catherine turned to Jade. You're the surprise I didn't see coming. I thought I was hiring help. Instead, I found family." Her eyes glistened. "Take care of them when I'm gone. Both of them. They're going to need you more than they know." "I will," Jade promised, throat tight. "And Vittorio." Catherine squeezed her son's hand. "Let her. Stop pushing away the people trying to help. Stop treating love like a weakness." She paused, breathing labored. "No more blood, unless absolutely necessary. Promise me." "Mama." "Promise me, Vittorio. I've lived in this world long enough. I know what you're planning with Marco. I know you think eliminating the threat protects Lucy, but violence begets violence, and I don't want that legacy for my granddaughter. Marco won't stop until he destroys us or we destroy him. There's no middle ground. Then find one, or at least try before you go to war." Catherine's breathing became more labored. "Promise me you'll try." "I promise," Vittorio said quietly. They sat in silence for a long moment, just being together. Then Lucy climbed carefully onto the bed and curled against her grandmother's side. "Tell me about Mama again," Lucy whispered. Catherine smiled despite obvious pain. "Your mama was magic. She turned ordinary days into adventures. She loved you more than anything in the world, and she's waiting for me, on the other side. I'll tell her how brave you've been. Tell her I miss her. She knows, sweetheart. She's always known." Lucy fell asleep there, wrapped in her grandmother's weak embrace. Jade and Vittorio kept watch until Catherine drifted off as well, her breathing shallow but steady. In the hallway afterward, Vittorio leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. "She's right," he said without opening them. "About all of it. Then listen to her. I'm meeting with Marco tomorrow night. Neutral location. Final negotiation before this turns into open war." Vittorio opened his eyes, and Jade saw exhaustion that went bone deep. He won't accept anything less than complete capitulation, which means negotiation is pointless. "What are you going to do?" "What I have to. Eliminate the threat permanently." His voice went flat. "Marco orchestrated my mother's medication error. He's responsible for her accelerated decline. He threatened my family directly. There's no coming back from that. Catherine asked you to try. I will try. I'll offer him one chance to walk away. And when he refuses, I'll do what's necessary to protect what's left of my family. Vittorio pushed off the wall. I need you to promise me something. If things go wrong tomorrow night, if Marco retaliates, you take Lucy and run. Nina has emergency protocols. Money, documents, safe houses. You disappear with my daughter, and you keep her hidden until it's safe. Vittorio, promise me, Jade. If I die, Lucy can't fall into Marco's hands. He'd use her for leverage or kill her outright. You're the only person I trust to get her out. The weight of what he was asking settled over Jade like lead. I promise. But you're not going to die. Probably not. I'm very good at violence. A bitter smile crossed his face. It's everything else I'm terrible at. He left before Jade could respond. The next day passed in suspended tension. Catherine slept almost continuously, her body shutting down in stages. Lucy stayed close, speaking occasionally in whispers. Asking questions, Nina and Jade answered as honestly as they could. Vittorio spent the day in his study, emerging only once to check on Catherine. He wore tactical gear under his suit jacket, and the men gathering in the lower levels all carried weapons. This wasn't a business meeting. This was preparation for war. At 7 that evening, Vittorio came to say goodbye to Lucy. His daughter was reading beside Catherine's bed when he entered. Lucy, I need to go out for a few hours. She looked up at him with eyes that saw too much. To fight the bad men? Vittorio knelt in front of her chair. To try to make them stop being bad. To keep you and Nonna safe. Will you come back? Yes. Promise? Vittorio hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Long enough for Lucy to notice. I promise I'll do everything I can to come back. Lucy stared at him for a long moment. Then she threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. I love you, Papa, she whispered. Even when you're not here, I love you. Vittorio's arms came around her, and for the first time since Jade had known him, she saw his control completely shatter. His face crumpled, and tears slid down his cheeks as he held his daughter like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. I love you too, sweetheart, so much, more than anything in this world. His voice broke. I'm sorry I've been absent. I'm sorry I let fear keep me away. I'm so sorry for everything I should have done differently. You can do it better now, Lucy said simply. When you come back, you can be here more, really here. I will, I swear I will. They stayed like that for several minutes, father and daughter finally connecting across the chasm of grief and avoidance that had separated them. When Vittorio finally pulled back, he wiped his eyes and looked at Jade, standing in the doorway. Keep her safe. Always. He kissed Lucy's forehead. He had touched Catherine's hand gently and left without looking back. The house felt emptier after his departure. Lucy returned to her book, but didn't turn any pages. Jade sat nearby, watching the clock and trying not to imagine all the ways the night could go wrong. At 9, Catherine woke briefly. Is he gone? Yes. He'll do what needs doing. He always has. Catherine's breathing rattled. But at what cost? That's the question he never asks. Lucy climbed onto the bed again, and Catherine wrapped a weak arm around her. Whatever happens, Catherine whispered, you two stay together, promise me. We promise, Jade and Lucy said simultaneously. Catherine smiled. Good, that's good. She fell asleep again, and this time her breathing was different. Slower, more labored. Nina checked her vitals and gave Jade a look that communicated everything without words. They were reaching the end. At 11:56, Vittorio returned. Jade heard the commotion before she saw him. Raised voices, footsteps running. Then Vittorio appeared in the doorway of Catherine's suite, and Jade's breath caught. He was covered in blood, not his own, based on the way he was moving, but enough that it painted his shirt and jacket in patterns that spoke of violence and proximity. Lucy gasped. Catherine, somehow still conscious, looked at her son with profound sadness. It's done, Vittorio said quietly. Marco won't threaten his family again. What did you do? Jade asked. What I had to. What I promised I'd try to avoid, but he left no choice. Vittorio moved to his mother's bedside, and Catherine reached up to touch his face, leaving a smear of someone else's blood on her son's cheek. No more after this, Catherine said. Promise me, Vittorio. No more blood. Let this be the end of it. I promise, Mama. It's finished now. You're safe. Lucy's safe. Everyone's safe. Then I can rest. Catherine's hand fell back to the bed. I'm so tired, my son. So very tired. I know. It's okay. You can rest now. Catherine's eyes found Lucy. Be brave, darling girl. Be kind. Be happy. That's all I want for you. Don't go, Nana, Lucy begged, tears streaming down her face. I have to, sweet one, but I'll always be with you. In the stars you count, in the music you play, in every beautiful thing you see. Catherine's breathing became shallower. Jade, take care of my family. I will. Vittorio, be the father she deserves. I will, Mama. I promise. Catherine smiled one last time. Then I've done everything I needed to do. I can let go now. Her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. And at 3:47 in the morning on a Saturday in February, Catherine Moretti took her last breath, surrounded by the family she'd fought so hard to keep together. Lucy sobbed against Jade's chest while Vittorio held his mother's hand and wept silently for the second time in his life. Outside, dawn was beginning to break. A new day arriving, whether they were ready for it or not. 3 weeks after Catherine's funeral, the house still felt too quiet. Jade woke each morning in her room on the second floor and listened to the silence where Catherine's breathing monitors used to hum, where medication alarms used to chime, where a dying woman's presence had filled the estate with purpose and urgency. Now there was just emptiness, and the slow work of learning to exist around it. Lucy processed grief in waves. Some days she seemed almost normal, attending lessons and practicing piano and drawing pictures like she always had. Other days she dissolved into tears without warning, overwhelmed by the permanence of loss. Jade stayed close through all of it, counting stars on bad nights, reading stories on quiet afternoons, just being present when words failed and nothing helped except knowing someone was there. Vittorio kept his promise. The change wasn't dramatic or immediate, but it was real. He started coming home for dinner every night, joined Lucy for breakfast most mornings, sat with her during piano practice, listening without checking his phone or mentally calculating business problems. He was awkward at first, uncertain how to occupy space he'd avoided for 3 years. But Lucy was patient with him in ways that broke Jade's heart, giving her father chances to try again when he stumbled. Papa, Lucy said one evening while they were eating, can you help me with my math homework after dinner? Vittorio looked surprised by the request. Don't you usually do that with Jade? Yes, but Jade says you're good at math, and I thought maybe you could help tonight. Something shifted in Vittorio's expression. I'd like that. After dinner, Jade watched them work through problems at the dining room table. Vittorio explaining concepts with patience she hadn't known he possessed. Lucy listening intently, asking questions, laughing when he made a mistake and had to recalculate. They looked like a normal father and daughter, almost like grief hadn't carved chasms between them, almost like 3 years of distance could be bridged with homework and proximity. It was a start. The nightmares came 2 weeks after the funeral. Jade woke to Lucy screaming at 2 in the morning. She ran down the hall and found the girl sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, gasping for air. She's gone, Lucy sobbed. I dreamed she was here, and then I woke up and she's gone, and she's never coming back. Jade held her while she cried, rocking slightly, murmuring words that probably didn't help but were all she had to offer. Vittorio appeared in the doorway in sleep pants and an undershirt, hair disheveled. What happened? Nightmare, Jade said quietly. He approached slowly, uncertain of his welcome. Lucy, can I sit with you? Lucy nodded through tears, and Vittorio sat on the other side of the bed. For a moment he just looked at his daughter, clearly struggling with what to say or do. Then he started talking. When your mother died, I had nightmares for months. I dreamed she was still here, still laughing, still making everything feel safe. Then I'd wake up and remember she was gone, and it felt like losing her all over again every single morning. Lucy looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. What did you do? I worked. I threw myself into business and pretended that staying busy meant I was okay. I avoided everything that reminded me of her, which meant I avoided you because you look so much like her. His voice went rough. That was wrong. I see that now. I should have held on to you instead of pushing you away. We should have grieved together instead of separately. I missed you, Lucy whispered. You were here, but you weren't really here. I know, and I'm so sorry. Vittorio reached out hesitantly, and Lucy took his hand. I can't change the past 3 years, but I can change what happens now. I can show up. I can stay. I can be the father you deserve instead of the ghost I've been. Do you still have nightmares about Mama? Sometimes, less often now. But when I do, they hurt just as much. He squeezed her hand. The hurt doesn't go away, Lucy, but it becomes something you can carry instead of something that crushes you. And having people around who understand helps. Lucy looked between her father and Jade. We all lost people we love. Yes, Jade said. We did. So we understand each other, and we can help each other carry it. Lucy leaned against Vittorio's side, and he wrapped an arm around her carefully, like he was afraid she might break. They sat like that until Lucy's breathing evened out and she fell asleep again. Vittorio carried her to bed and tucked her in, smoothing hair from her face with gentle fingers. In the hallway afterward, he looked at Jade with an expression that held gratitude and grief in equal measure. Thank you for staying, for keeping your promise. He paused. My mother chose well. She usually did. She liked you from the start, said you had kind eyes and a backbone. A ghost of a smile crossed Vittorio's face. Said that combination was rare and valuable. I miss her. So do I. Every day. Vittorio leaned against the wall. The business is stable now. Marco's operation collapsed after his death. The territory disputes resolved in our favor. There's peace, at least for now. That's good. It means I can step back slightly, delegate more, spend more time here. He met her eyes. Be the father Lucy needs, the one my mother begged me to be. She'd be proud of you for trying. Maybe. Or maybe she'd say I'm 3 years too late. He pushed off the wall. Either way, I'm trying now. That has to count for something. He walked toward the stairs, then paused and looked back. You're not just the hired help anymore, Jade. You're family. Lucy thinks of you that way. So do I. He hesitated. I wanted you to know that. He left before Jade could respond. She stood in the hallway for a long time, processing those words and what they meant. How a temporary job had become a permanent place. How a broken family had somehow absorbed her into their grief and healing. How she'd found home in the last place she expected. Time moved forward because it had no choice. February became March. The gardens began showing signs of spring. Snow melted and revealed brown grass that would eventually turn green again. Lucy's 8th birthday arrived on March 9th. They kept it small. Just the 3 of them and Nina, eating cake in the dining room where they'd shared so many meals. Lucy wore a new dress Vittorio had bought, soft blue with white flowers that Catherine would have loved. Make a wish, Jade said when they lit the candles. Lucy closed her eyes and thought hard. Then she blew out all 8 candles in one breath. What did you wish for? Vittorio asked. Can't tell. It won't come true if I tell. Lucy smiled, the expression still carrying shadows of grief but also something lighter. But it was a good wish. Later, after Nina left and Lucy was getting ready for bed, Jade found Vittorio in Catherine's old suite. The medical equipment had been removed, but the room still held her presence in the photographs on the walls and the books on the shelves. I come here sometimes, Vittorio admitted, to remember her, to ask her advice even though she can't answer anymore. Or what would she tell you today? That I'm doing better, that Lucy's healing, that family isn't just blood, it's the people who show up when things get hard. He turned to face Jade. She'd tell me not to waste the second chance I've been given. Second chance at what? At being present, at letting people in, at building something that isn't just walls and security. He moved closer. At trusting someone enough to let them matter. The words hung between them. Weighted with meaning, Jade wasn't sure he was ready to unpack. Lucy matters to me, Jade said carefully. Taking care of her isn't obligation anymore, it's choice. I want to be here. I know, that's why my mother brought you here. She saw what I couldn't, that Lucy needed someone who chose to stay, not someone paid to endure. Vittorio's expression softened slightly. You gave up everything to save a stranger, my mother. You didn't know who she was or what it would cost you, but you did it anyway. That kind of person is rare. I just did what felt right. Exactly. You followed instinct toward kindness instead of self-preservation. That's who you are. He paused. I'm grateful you walked into our lives. All of us are. Lucy's voice called from upstairs. Jade, can you come count stars with me? I should go, Jade said. Wait, Vittorio caught her hand. I want you to know this is permanent. You have a place here for as long as you want it. Not as an employee, as family. The paperwork is being drawn up to make it official. Trust fund for your future. Legal protections. Everything my mother wanted you to have. Vittorio, that's too much. It's not nearly enough. You saved my mother's life that first night. You kept your promise to stay through everything that followed. You helped my daughter find her voice again. You reminded me how to be human. His grip tightened slightly. Let me do this. Let me take care of the people who take care of us. Jade didn't know what to say. 6 months ago, she'd been drowning in debt and desperation. Now she stood in a mansion with a family that had somehow become hers, being offered security she'd never imagined possible. Thank you, she said finally, for trusting me, for letting me stay, for including me. Thank me by staying. That's all I ask. Vittorio released her hand. Now go count stars with my daughter before she comes looking for you. Jade found Lucy already in bed, looking out the window at the night sky. 63 stars, Lucy said as Jade sat down. I counted already, but I wanted you here anyway. Why's that? Because counting is better when you're not alone. Lucy took Jade's hand. Everything's better when you're not alone. Yeah, Jade agreed softly. It is. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching stars and existing in the space grief had carved out but hadn't destroyed. A space that was slowly filling with new routines and careful hope. Downstairs, Vittorio stood in his mother's suite and looked at the photograph of his family. Himself, Sophia, infant Lucy, his parents. Everyone smiling. Everyone together. I'm trying, Mama, he said to the empty room. I'm showing up. I'm being present. I'm letting people in. He touched the glass covering his mother's face. I hope that's enough. I hope you're proud. The room didn't answer, but somewhere in the silence, Vittorio felt something shift, like a weight lifting, like permission to move forward instead of staying frozen in loss. He turned off the light and closed the door gently. In Lucy's room, Jade was singing the lullaby her mother used to sing. Lucy's eyes were closing, her breathing evening out, her hands still holding Jade's. Don't leave, Lucy murmured, half asleep. I won't. I'm right here. Promise? Promise. Lucy smiled and drifted off completely. Jade stayed in the chair like she had so many nights before, keeping watch over a child who'd lost too much but was learning to trust again. Learning that some people stayed, that some promises held, that family could be built from broken pieces if everyone was willing to try. Outside, spring continued arriving, slowly but inevitably, bringing green to brown grass and warmth to cold earth and light to windows that had been dark too long. Inside the Moretti estate, 3 people who'd lost everything separately were learning to build something together, not replacing what was gone, but creating something new from what remained. A poor delivery girl who'd given up her job to save a dying woman, a Mafia boss learning to be a father again, a 7-year-old girl finding her voice after years of silence, and a family being rebuilt, one day, one choice, one counted star at a time. Some deliveries changed your route forever. This one had brought Jade home.